As most of you know, I was born in Denmark, and so it's quite sure that I tell you a little about my native country. I have tried to catch the atmosphere of Hans Christian Andersen's fairy tales and used it as the basis of my tour. Here in the cozy harbor district of Nyhavn in Copenhagen, he lived during part of his stay in the capital. And at the park-like waterfront of Copenhagen, Lange is the well-known statue symbolizing his fairy tale, The Little Mermaid. Superstition has it that a sailor who kissed the Little Mermaid before his voyage on the 7 world seas would be secured against shipwreck. In this way, I secure myself a safe journey on the road of the fairy tale through Denmark. For more than 1,000 years, Denmark has been a kingdom, and the royal family is highly esteemed and loved by the Danish people. I therefore start my journey at the King's fine Roskilde Palace, Amalienborg in Copenhagen. And my first stop is Roskilde Cathedral, where all the Danish kings for many centuries have been entombed. This church was built 800 years ago, but numerous changes and additions have been made since then. As I journeyed through the country, my companions and I stopped at Ringsted and sat for some time on the 1,000-year-old Thingstones, where the oldest and cleverest men of the country held their meetings and mediated in quarrels and in fights. But I travel on to see the very oldest royal fortress from the Viking era, built 1,000 years ago by King Harald Bluetooth or by Sven Forkbeard. The Viking ships sailed just to the edges of the ramparts. Now the Viking ships are no longer seen in the Danish waters, but modern ferries carry one comfortably from one island to the other. In the Stone Age, Denmark has been a country of the sea, and the seagull has therefore become the national bird of Denmark. The modern ferry carries us to Nyborg, where the oldest royal castle of the north is situated. Here the kings of the Middle Age were proclaimed rulers of Denmark. And all over this country, many beautiful castles from that time are still to be found. Castles built by squires who partly supported the king, partly fought against him. We get a quick glimpse of Rygård, Hesselagergård, with their thick walls and deep moats built for defense. Today Denmark is a country of peace. Lovely big windmills grind her wheat and rye, and it was in this atmosphere that Denmark's great storyteller, Hans Christian Andersen, was born. The people and the animals described by Hans Christian Andersen very often originated from the Fyn farms. And at such a small brick-and-timber farm, I stopped to quench my thirst. It is this peaceful Denmark which inspired his world-famous fairy tales. And it gives me a special pleasure to pay a visit to his childhood home in Odense. The house is now a museum commemorating Hans Christian Andersen by showing his furniture, his clothes, his personal belongings, his manuscripts and so forth, as well as lovely murals telling the fairy tale of his life from the time when he was a son of a poor cobbler till he became the world-famous honorary citizen of the town of Odense. The last picture of the sea tells of Hans Christian Andersen's voyages to foreign countries. What a fairy tale he would have been able to tell about the bridges of Denmark, combining in a modern way the different parts of the country across the sounds and belts. I now continue across one of Denmark's numerous bridges to the mainland, Jutland. Along the Danish highways you will find many cozy old inns, built centuries ago to accommodate the passengers of stagecoaches long before the railroad and the automobiles were even thought of. The world-famous Danish beer is a wonderful thing on a hot summer's day. The journey continues past the 400-year-old Koldinghus Castle, which was burned down by Napoleon's soldiers 150 years ago, because they overheated the open fireplaces in the cold Danish winter in order to keep warm. Silently, the cannons of the past speak their mute language to a present which is too warm-minded. On my further journey through the country, I arrived at the first and the oldest capital in Denmark, the medieval town of Ribe, with the enormous cathedral rising above the low roofs of the brick and timber houses. Here Jacob A. Riis was born, the man whom Theodore Roosevelt called the most useful citizen of the United States. As Denmark is the country of storks, Ribe is the town of storks. Here these strange birds spend their summer holidays because they find the climate suitable and because here is a peace and quiet, and in the autumn they fly 10,000 miles south. Whenever we travel in Denmark, the past speaks to us. At the ruins of the old Øen cloister from the 12th century, I open a shutter and find the skeleton of a monk who died 700 to 800 years ago. Ebeltoft is a real little fairy tale town, far from the noise and bustle of the world. The small cozy town hall is guarded symbolically by miniature cannons, which have, as far as I know, never been used or abused. I pass by the castle Rosenholm, where Baron Rosencrantz, whose family and name are known from Shakespeare's tragedy Hamlet, asked me to enter in order to get acquainted with the Knight's Hall and the library. Yes, even with ghost stories, which now belong to bygone days. At another inn, I stopped to rest at a place where a group of the Danish underground movement had their headquarters. Here they received the Allied paratroopers and weapons during the Second World War. All the male members of the family were shot by the Germans. But the women of this unconquerable family are still running the inn. I'm nearing the end of my journey, and I stop to pick a rose in the town of roses, at the brick and timber wall of one of the strangest hotels in the world, Hotel Postgården, Marial. Again I go south to Aarhus, the second largest town in Denmark. A modern town, yes, but in the middle of the town there's an old Danish town, streets and buildings which take you many centuries back. The old signboards tell us of a time when the public had difficulties in reading and writing, so that the signboards had to be substituted by present advertisement. The cooper, the cobbler, the tobacconist, the tailor, the watchmaker, the hatter, the baker. Oh, delicious Danish gingerbread is tempting me. And here I close my fairy tale tour through Denmark. You have seen a few of the interesting spots in Denmark. Should you ever get the opportunity to make this trip, I'm sure you'll enjoy it as much as I have.
Hey, you know, I'd like to know where you'd like to go on King's Crossroads. Why don't you drop me a line, care of the visit? And we'll see if we can do it in the very near future.